Holly Hunter is someone to remember for Oscar time. Broadcast News is a fine, funny, and incisive movie. I think it's terrific.
We only have 10 minutes left. How can you talk to me about parking problems? No, not your cry. You'll do it. Do it. Goodbye.
I had no idea she was this good.
It's going into wide release in January. We wanted to talk about it early because this is one you want to look for, and I think this is one you're going to be hearing about on Oscar night next spring.
Men, you know, are not allowed in the Forbidden City after dark. Even little men like you.
Faye Dunaway, you talk about how surprisingly small her performance is. This is Academy Award material here. Maybe she's not on the screen every moment. Well, 2 out of 3 is not that bad.
And I thought we would hit them all because Faye Dunaway really did deserve one.
You know, the funny thing, though, about predictions is after the event is over, nobody can remember what was predicted anyway.
That's why I'd rather pick the winners myself.
On April the 11th, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences will announce the winners of this year's Academy Awards. But we're not members of the Academy, and we're not going to wait that long. Here we are for the first time on the stage of the Siskel and Ebert Movie Theater, and we're going to go right ahead and reveal our personal Oscar choices on this special program called If We Picked the Winners. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. And once again, Roger and I are indulging in our fantasy if we pick the Oscar winners. We don't have a ballot. No critic does. But we've each filled out our envelopes. I've got Roger's right here, and I don't know what's in it. We've also picked them in 6 categories, plus we've come up with our own special category of the worst nominations the Academy made. It's not a popular category with them, but we sort of like it ourselves.
Popular with us.
You got it. We've kept our choices secret from each other, and unlike the typically boring Oscar telecast, you don't have to wait to get to the big categories on our show, because Roger starts right now with the nominees for Best Actor.
And thank you very much, Gene. All right, the first category is Best Actor, and this year's nominees for Best Actor are Michael Douglas, who played a hard-boiled, hard-driving corporate takeover artist in Wall Street.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
William Hurt, who had the looks and the personality to be a great anchorman, even if he didn't have the brains, in broadcast news.
I know how much I have to learn. If I could, I mean, I would really a lot appreciate it.
Really a lot? Appreciate it?
You make me nervous.
Marcello Mastroianni, the great Italian veteran who played a man who loved 2 women and lost both women in Dark Eyes.
Et voilà votre chapeau, madame.
Jack Nicholson, who was a Skid Row bum haunted by guilt from his past in Ironweed.
So get your asses gone. I'm sick to death of looking at the bunch of yous anyways.
And Robin Williams is a wisecracking, motor-mouthed, anti-establishment armed forces disc jockey in Good Morning Vietnam.
And now, here are the headlines. Here they come in right now. Pope actually found to be Jewish. Liberace is Anastasia, and Ethel Merman jams Russian radar. The East Germans today claim that the Berlin Wall was a fraternity prank. Also, the Pope decided today to release Vatican-related bath products. An incredible thing. Yes, it's the new Pope on the robe.
Okay, now, those are the nominees, and as always on this program, Gene and I have made our secret personal choices and sealed our ballots. We do not know how each other voted, and now I have your envelope right here for Best Actor, Gene. And I'm...
Ripping job.
I'm going to see...
You're going to save the seal? Go ahead.
And you voted for William Hurt.
You got it. I'm voting for William Hurt in broadcast news because once again, as with last year's teacher role in Children of a Lesser God, William Hurt proves that he can make a seemingly dull, average man character exciting. And that's a nifty trick. Think about it. He's playing a dunderhead in broadcast news, an idiot savant who can do only one thing well, and that's read the news from a teleprompter right through the TV screen to you at home.
After a brief dogfight, both Libyan jets were down by the American fighters.
Now, that could be a comical scene, but this is a real network newscast, and William Hurt can't ham it up like Ted Baxter on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Ted Baxter didn't know he was dumb. That was the whole joke of that part. But Hurt's character does.
I made one rule for myself when this started, and I realized I was going to take a lot from you people because of being from sports.
And that rule was?
Never to pretend to know more than I did.
Can you name all the members of the cabinet?
Okay, let's drop it.
What?
I mean, I am not going to take a test for you. I mean, if that came up in conversation...
We're conversing. Oh, no, the names of the cabinet have slipped my mind. Say, do you know them? Okay, don't name them for me. Just tell me if you know.
Yes, Aaron, I know the names of the cabinet.
Okay. All 12?
Yes.
There's only 10.
It's great the way his body sags there, acting without talking. And, of course, when he does talk, he's just great. Yes, I do, Aaron, the way, pompous way, and he's scared, of course, and also, I knew you wouldn't like me because I was in sports. The intonations are just right. It feels like somebody who's in over his head, but yet has some qualities that are worthwhile anchoring. Here's another astonishing thing about William Hurt's performance. No overcoat or hat or voice change like Jack Nicholson in Ironweed. No wig like Mastroianni in Dark Eyes. No flashy clothes or high-powered toys like Michael Douglas's character in Wall Street. It's just a man in a suit. And yet I never saw William Hurt in that suit. I just saw this character named Tom Grunick, a forgettable face made memorable by William Hurt.
Yeah, but Gene, that's an unfair criticism of the other characters to say that they had costumes. What about Hurt, who I think gave a much better performance in Kiss of the Spider-Woman,
yes,
where he was actually in drag a lot of the time, and you didn't complain about him then because he had a costume on.
I'm saying this year, as I looked at this list, and this is how I made up my mind, I appreciate the way William Hurt, working in ordinary clothes in Children of a Lesser God, and again this year, really did a good job. And what you're tipping me off is you didn't pick him.
Well, let me just say this. I admire the performance, too. I thought it was a good performance, but as you point out, in the Academy Awards, it's a horse race. You're talking about 5 competitors, and I didn't think.
Well, let's see what you did.
I didn't think that he was the best of the 5, not if I were marking my ballot.
You picked Michael Douglas in Wall Street.
Michael Douglas in Wall Street. That's my choice, Michael Douglas, but it was a tough choice to make because there's not a single unworthy nomination in this category. I think I chose Douglas because his performance marched in and took over the movie. He completely dominated this movie with his role, and that was what the character required. A character named Gordon Gekko, who was fueled by ego and greed, and who didn't allow anybody to get in his way as he attempted to strong-arm his way to a fortune.
I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
He talks about the art of war, and this is a scene about the art of war. He is going out to do battle, and I think the whole business here in the dressing room, as he dresses himself, is like a medieval knight garbing himself for battle. Look at this business with the tie here. Look at the savagery right there when he pulls that tie down. This is a man who's filled with aggression, filled with anger. He's very sure of all of his motions, his physical motions and his financial motions. There's Charlie Sheen as the young broker that wants to work with him. And the way that he combs back his hair there, he is going out now from this protected place to do battle. That's exactly what he's going to do.
But you keep on fighting.
Now, when I talk about a Best Actor performance, I really am talking about the lead in the film. I think that William Hurt and, indeed, Albert Brooks had equal roles in broadcast news. They were both supporting actors. The movie is about Michael Douglas, and I feel that it's the best leading performance I saw this year.
Well, you know, it isn't one of the best that I saw. I was very surprised that you picked it. For me, it was a standard bully. I felt I knew this person from press reports about all the things.
That's good, though. Don't you see how good that is that you knew him, that you felt that you knew him?
No. See, what I like to see is somebody that surprises me. In other words, I thought that Michael Douglas... Wait a second. I just think that it was surprising. I hadn't seen the Bill Hurt character before played that way, and I had seen this played this way in real life. You're totally
contradicting yourself, because what you said about the William Hurt character is that he was a normal person, an ordinary person.
That's right, but
you'd never seen an ordinary person before, and you had seen this guy before?
I had seen that guy before. I had not seen an ordinary person with a skill like that played before.
Well, I don't know. In my circles, I've met a lot of ordinary people, but I hadn't met a Gordon Gekko, so that's what fascinated me.
I think that Gordon Gekko was played by Michael Douglas just the way anybody would have played him. Nothing special there. Nothing special at all. Now the nominees for Best Supporting Actress, all receiving their first nomination. We start with Norma Alejandro, the sympathetic nurse of a crippled writer in Gabby, A True Story.
I take care of her. She has cerebral palsy.
Ann Archer, the trusting, much too trusting wife in Fatal Attraction.
Okay. My hair, okay.
You look great.
I'm curious.
You're the prettiest woman in the room, sweetheart.
Olympia Dukakis, the world-weary matriarch of a memorable Italian family in Moonstruck.
I guess you can't invite me in.
No.
People hungry.
No, I think the house is empty. I can't invite you in because I'm married.
because I know who I am.
Anne Ramsey, the gruff, aggravating mother who her son would like to kill and throw Mama from the train. And Anne Southern, the longtime neighbor and friend of two old sisters in The Whales of August.
Well, Vera, you know what Harry Truman said.
What?
Well, if the buck is going to be passed, it may as well be passed to somebody with plenty of them.
And Roger's choice, if he picked the Oscars?
And it'd be fun if we did.
You bet. Olympia Dukakis in Moonstruck.
That's right, Olympia Dukakis. And I didn't even have to think a long time before I marked my choice in this category, because her role has the widest emotional range of any of the nominations this year, I think almost in all of the categories, and she's good all across the spectrum. She's good when she's funny, she's good when she's sad, and she's especially good in this scene in a restaurant where all she has to do is be a grown-up woman, very perceptive and very wise.
Get rid of all evidence of her and bring me a picture.
John Mahoney plays a middle-aged college professor who's just been walked out on by his young student girlfriend.
I'm sorry if we disturbed you.
I'm not disturbed by you.
My lady friend has a personality disorder.
She's just too young for you.
Ah, thanks, comrade.
Nothing.
Too young? I just got that. You know how to hurt a guy, don't you? How old are you?
None of your business.
I'm sorry. That was rude.
Would you like to join me for dinner?
Are you sure?
And what's interesting there is you get a sense of her totally outside the family, this close-knit Italian family that's the center of the film. Here she is as an independent woman, someone who, for once, is not with her husband, not with her children, not with her in-laws and her father-in-law and so forth, operating on her own with this guy, and she knows a lot about this guy just by looking at him, and that's...
She knows a lot about everybody in this film. She knows a lot about life, and that one acting choice, you know, acting is really about choices, which is why I still think Hurt made more interesting choices, but that's an old story. With her, when she says, you know, come over, is it okay if I come over? Doesn't say anything, just that little thing. That's a great choice.
That entire scene is one of, it's almost the kind of scene they would cut from a film because it doesn't necessarily add to the story, but it's a precious
Get
thing.
to my envelope.
I don't know why you're so anxious.
You'll see why in a second.
I think I can probably guess why. In fact, I can see why, because you picked Olympia Dukakis, too.
You bet. I've got good taste. It's amazing you do, too. I picked Olympia Dukakis because even when she didn't have the great dialogue of screenwriter John Patrick Shanley to speak, just sitting there, she embodied a classic type, the wise woman who has seen it all and is mightily annoyed that everyone around her isn't as wise as she is.
Why would a man need more than one woman?
I don't know. Maybe because he fears death.
That's it. That's the reason.
I don't know.
No, that's it. No. Thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
And that's a wonderful scene because there is a sense of discovery all through the movie, including in that restaurant scene with John Mahoney. She even puts out this theory that men are afraid of dying, and that's why they cheat on women. And finally, the discovery. And it's the discovery, and she leaps forward. You see it. This has been years and years building in her life, and she communicates that with her body language. It's a wonderful performance.
And it's a great nomination, too, because here's a woman who has worked for a long time on the stage in New York. She's perfectly cast as Cher's mom. You can almost see Cher there looking at her face and listening to her voice and looking at her body language. I wonder if she didn't fashion her performance so that you could kind of look at her and say, hey, that probably is this woman's mother. There were so many subtle, nice things in this performance.
She's really good. When we come back, the Best Actress category, if we pick the winners. Continuing our special show, if we pick the Oscar winners, here are the nominees for Best Actress. Cher, who has just become engaged when she falls in love with her fiancé's brother in Moonstruck.
What sins have you to confess?
Twice I took the name of the Lord in vain. Once I slept with the brother of my fiancé, and once I bounced a chick at the liquor store. But that was really an accident.
Glenn Close, who turns a one-night fling into months of misery in Fatal Attraction.
I've got 2 tickets to Madame Butterfly. 2 weeks from Thursday. I'd really love it if you'd come with me, kind of as a peace offering.
Holly Hunter, the TV news producer, luckier at work than in love in broadcast news.
I told, what's his name, Tom, that I'd meet him.
Well, call him up. It can wait, right?
I don't know. I may be in love with him.
Sally Kirkland, playing a fading actress trying to make a comeback in Anna.
All the king's horses, all the king's men could not put us together again.
That's very, very good. Now, can we do this with a little more energy?
And finally, Meryl Streep, an angry Depression-era alcoholic, barely surviving on memories of better times in Iron Week.
I'm not a drunk and I'm not a whore, and I never let a man use me for money. You know, I went Dutch lots of times, and I would let them buy the drinks, but that's because it's a man's place to buy the drinks.
And now we'll get to Roger's pick, if he were the voter. Holly Hunter, Broadcast News.
That's right. My choice is indeed Holly Hunter and Broadcast News, although once again here it was a difficult category to make a selection in because I admired all of the choices. I think, though, the reason I'd vote for Holly Hunter is because she came across as such a completely off-the-wall original in the film, and yet at the same time you never thought she was straining for any effect. She showed us something new in this movie. Even her southern accent, which some people found distracting, was so up front that I thought it was almost defiant. She didn't want to look like anybody else, or sound like anybody else, or be like anybody else, and that made it tough for her to be in a medium like television with its emphasis on teamwork and formulas.
It's hard for me to advise you since you personify something that I truly think is dangerous. I agree with you. You're not qualified, so get qualified. You can insist on being better prepared. You don't have to just leave it with, I don't write, I'm not schooled, I don't understand the news I'm reading, but at least I'm upset about it, folks.
And you just listen to that word, folks. Yeah. And what I like about this whole performance is that she's prepared to be someone particular. So many people in the movies are cut right out of the same cookie cutter. They talk in the same bland middle American accent.
You got it.
They wear the same clothes. She is a peculiar, individual, special person, and she doesn't care what anybody thinks about her voice, either as an actress or as a character.
In that scene, her voice ranges all over the map, which is mirroring her emotions. It is not a cookie-cutter role.
Musical.
Just very, very nicely done.
Okay, now I'm going to open up your envelope and see who you would vote for.
Right.
If you pick the winner in this category, you would vote for Holly Hunter in Broadcast News.
You got it, big boy. This was a really tough choice for me.
I'm absolutely surprised.
No, this is a tough choice for me between Meryl Streep and Holly Hunter, the brilliant veteran, versus the brilliant newcomer. I picked Hunter because I had just seen her months before in a film called Raising Arizona, and I did not recognize her in Broadcast News, playing a much smarter character, almost too smart for her own good, a TV producer with tough standards at home and at work.
Paul, forgive me, I'm really sorry. Pardon me for interrupting, but... Paul, yes, I need to talk to you about...
Now, here's a scene where Hunter, the producer, confronts her network news boss. She wants someone very particular to anchor the network newscast, but look at this. She's such a control freak, she has to close that door and get everything set before she talks.
Tom's not ready for the job you're about to hand him. Not near ready. Not by the longest shot. Now, Aaron spent 6 weeks in Tripoli. He's interviewed Gaddafi. He reported on the 81 story. I think he's essential to do the job we're capable of. And I think it's my responsibility to tell you that.
Okay, that's your opinion. I don't agree.
It's not opinion.
You're just absolutely right. And I'm absolutely wrong. It must be nice to always believe you know better. To always think you're the smartest person in the room.
And here's a great reaction shot coming up of her. She's worried about what she said to her boss, but now she thinks about the job she has to do to produce the special. I just love the way you can see her mind change. Okay, I've done this to the boss, it's bad, but now I've got to get to work totally silent. That's acting. I've said this so many times, I really believe it, though. I love watching a character who is as smart and as complex as some of the real people I know, and Hunter is given a bright character that she makes even more brighter and more alive with her mannerisms, her energy, her focused attention. She turns her role into the equivalent of a documentary on a worker possessed and a lonely person who would like to be possessed.
You know, as I was listening to that scene play, I was thinking once again of how interesting it is to hear a real, genuine American dialect.
Yes.
And I want to choose one line. A line where another actress, or probably most people, would have said, it's not an opinion. She says it's non-opinion. N-O-N-A-N-A-N, kind of.
Yeah.
It's non-opinion. That's the way, and that kind of compression of words is part of that dialect. She's got it exactly right, and she's courageous enough to go with it, even though some people might say she sounds funny.
And compression is, in essence, what a producer does, so it's true to the character as well.
She's rushing ahead. She can't go fast enough. When we come back, we cast our ballots for the choices in the Best Original Song category on our special If We Picked the Winners. Continuing the special show, If We Pick the Oscars, the next category is the Best Original Song. And this is often one of the least interesting segments on the annual Oscar cast because the songs are so often completely forgettable. In fact, last year when we got to this category, you refused to pick your favorite Best Original Song. You said they all stunk.
I may have done it again.
Oh, well, we'll see in a moment.
Or they may have done it again.
Okay, this year, trying to be very objective when we're casting our ballots for this program, Gene and I both listened to the songs audio only. We did not look at the visual images or even the music videos in most cases. We just listened to the musical quality, or lack of same, as the case may be. And the finalists are the theme from Cry Freedom, the story of a South African freedom fighter and the white liberal who becomes his friend.
About the great ones who cry freedom for South Africa.
I've had the time of my life from the big box office hit Dirty Dancing. Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now from Mannequin, the story of a man who falls in love with a department store dummy. Shakedown from the Eddie Murphy Shoot 'em Up, Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Everybody wanting to cry live. Break down, take down, you're busted.
And Storybook Love from the sly comic fantasy, The Princess Bride.
My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel. My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel.
And you were chortling there during Mannequin, but as a matter of fact, that was a big box office hit. I was astonished that anybody wanted to see that film. Let's see who you voted for.
Yeah, get right to it.
For Best Original Song. Is there even a name of a song on your ballot? There is, Cry Freedom from Cry Freedom.
That's it. I picked this one simply because it's the only song of all the five that I would ever want to hear again. Thank you, Roger. That's very generous of you. I like the way it builds quietly but steadily and evokes a mood that I think is true to the picture. Normally, I can't understand lyrics to a contemporary song. I find it really inhibits my pleasure, but not necessarily in this case. That song only plays over the end titles of the movie. I think they made a mistake. I think that theme should have been in the picture more often. This may not be in the class of Paul Simon's Graceland album, but it's close enough. I was moved by it. The rest of the nominees range from that awful ballad, Storybook Love from Princess Bride. I really had to laugh at its main lyric, My Love, it's as real as the feelings I feel. Somebody got paid to write that? To the merely danceable, I've had the time of my life from Dirty Dancing.
So your vote was Cry Freedom.
Okay,
Why don't you see what mine was? We'll go
or
directly
maybe
to my envelope.
you went with a Zippo.
Because it shows that
Hey, this is amazing this year.
Yes.
Cry Freedom from Cry Freedom.
I'm proud to have your taste validated by somebody who really was thinking about this category.
You know, this proves a new rule.
What's
Even a stopped clock is right 3 times a day. So
Thank you very much.
We've agreed
but
3 in a row.
You're too harsh on yourself, describing yourself in that way. Now,
Go ahead.
the reason that I like Cry Freedom is essentially your reason. The other 4 songs, I found myself listening at them.
Right.
This one, I found myself listening to it. It was musical. It drew me in. It entertained
that's the
me.
key. Drew you in.
It created a reverie for me. It made me think of images of Africa. It made me remember the movie. The other 4 songs were unanimously, utterly worthless. And I want to prove a point right now. I want you to listen, if you will. Once again, I'm having to ask you to do this. Listen to this phrase from one of the nominated songs.
Enough.
Okay, enough. Now, here's what I noticed in that song, and I notice it so often in music songs, in movie songs these days. The apparently synthesized percussion section in the foreground.
Right.
The beat is in the foreground. The lyrics and all of the other instruments are in the background. So what you're getting is this mechanical beat. And as I listened to a couple of these songs, it was so relentlessly mechanical from beginning to end, especially in the Bob Seger song, that you question whether a human drummer was even involved. It's like they turned up the knobs, and then they're going right along with it. This isn't music, this is robotics.
Well, actually, they're trying to do dance musicals. I mean, when I heard this song, the Dirty Dancing song is obviously the one that's gotten the most airplay.
Yeah.
I didn't remember which song this movie was. I thought this was the Dirty Dancing song. They sound so much alike. And so Cry Freedom is the only one that has any originality. Coming up next, our votes for the Best Supporting Actor, one of the most competitive categories, full of good performances this year.
Returning now to if we pick the winners, the next category is Best Supporting Actor. And this is one category where real competition seems to be developing this year. There are 5 strong contenders, and in my opinion, no obvious front runner. This one, if you're in an Oscar predicting contest, throw them all in the air on this one. It's hard to predict, but luckily, we aren't predicting on this program. We're voting. And the nominees are Albert Brooks is a brainy network correspondent who gets the sweats when he has to anchor the news in broadcast news.
Reports tonight from far down on the Arabian Peninsula indicate that heavy fighting continues. For a second, what are you doing? Don't touch me.
Sit on it.
No, but just don't handle me.
Sean Connery is a wise and brave veteran Chicago cop in The Untouchables.
I'm such a good cop.
How come I'm walking the beach then at my age? What do you want to tell me? Well, maybe I'm that whore with a heart of gold. Or the one good cop in the bad town.
Morgan Freeman is a vicious pimp who can be surprisingly charming in Street Smart.
Why are you giving me the notes now? You know why.
Vincent Gardenia as Sheriff's philandering philosophical father in Moonstruck.
You'll have your eyes open for you, my friend.
I have my eyes open.
Oh, yeah? Well, stick around. Don't go on any long trips.
I don't know what you mean.
I know you don't. That's the point. I'll say no more.
And Denzel Washington as a South African freedom fighter named Stephen Biko in Cry Freedom.
And is it not true that the common factor with these people is that they have advocated violence against the South African government?
The common factor with these people is that they have selflessly pushed forward the struggle of the black man.
And those are the nominees, and I have no idea what is on this card.
Well, it is a tough category.
But now I know that it says Sean Connery in The Untouchables.
Yeah, I'm picking Sean Connery because even though it is a truly supporting performance, he gives great weight and counterbalance to the squeaky clean Elliot Ness character played by Kevin Costner trying to catch Al Capone in The Untouchables. Here's the key scene in the movie where Connery, the tough street cop, tells young Ness, Kevin Costner, he's going to have to play by different rules if he wants to catch Al Capone.
You said you wanted to know how to get Capone. Do you really want to get him? You see what I'm saying? What are you prepared to do?
Everything within the law.
And then what are you prepared to do? If you open the ball on these people, Mr. Nash, you must be prepared to go all the way. Because they won't give up the fight until one of you is dead.
Now, I hope you were watching at the very end there, because Sean Connery was on the left side, the weak side of the screen. He was also farther back from Kevin Costner, right up in the front, and yet my eyes in that scene were on Sean Connery. And that character, a weary Irish cop, making one last effort, at doing his job well is miles away from Connery's performance as suave James Bond, or even the rascal he played in The Man Who Would Be King. It's more like another world-weary character Connery played so well, the old Robin Hood opposite Audrey Hepburn in Robin and Marion. He's both tired and powerful in these roles, convincingly give us a full characterization that we're going to remember as much as we remember the movie. He's an underrated actor. I hope he wins. I would want him to win.
Well, year in and year out, nobody is a better professional than Sean Connery. I agree with you. And he has given great performances, including this one.
Okay.
I agree with that, too.
Okay. Let's see what happens.
Well, let's see if his name is on the ballot.
I would like it to be Morgan Freeman in Street Smart.
That's right, because in this category, that is, in my opinion, the best supporting actor performance. Morgan Freeman. My reason is very simple. Of all the performances in this category, he was the one that made the strongest and most vivid impression on me. He was not in a great movie, but he did give a great performance, and a performance with amazing range. I want to show two scenes from Street Smart to give an idea of the reach of his performance. Here he is on the street as a pimp threatening anyone who would challenge his authority. And notice there that Christopher Reeve is jammed into that front seat with 3 other people. Here's the reporter who wanted to get a taste of street life, and now it's just almost too close for comfort.
You try going into business for yourself, you be one dead hole.
Oh, no, my face, please.
It's not your face, bitch, it's my face. Take it easy, yeah?
Oh.
Now, that is one of the most chilling and frightening moments I've seen in any movie, but here's the same actor, Morgan Freeman, at a chic Manhattan cocktail party, basking in the limelight as the star of a magazine profile.
Hey, you know, I read in John's article that you have a condo in Maui.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're not going to believe this, but you and I are neighbors.
I ain't that a bit.
I think you can tell in a way just how good Morgan Freeman was just by the fact that he got nominated out of a movie that didn't get very much attention or very good reviews. Sometimes an actor comes along and simply commands our admiration, and I think that's what happened for me this time with Morgan Freeman.
Well, actually, you know, it's the critics, and you were one of the first people to pick him as a good actor, and then I think the National Society of Film Critics...
Every critics organization in the country has picked him as the best.
I don't know if everyone has, but most of them have. And
New York, Los Angeles, and National. That's not bad.
Yeah, and I think that, so that's who spotted it, and I think that's a good case for the critics having some voice, and that's why we should be doing this show. He did a very good job in the film. I have to match it against Connery. Connery comes up a winner, but it's not a bad choice. This is the best category, the 5 best nominees of all of the categories.
I think you're right about that. Coming up next, 2 of our favorite categories, the Best Picture of the Year and our personal choices for the year's 2 worst nominations.
And now back again, the top prize this time, the nominees for Best Picture of the Year. And the nominees are Broadcast News, a love triangle set in the world of network television.
I'll miss you, we'll talk, we'll always be friends, we'll get hot for each other every few years at dinner, and we'll never act on it. Okay?
Fatal Attraction, the marital infidelity thriller that became a buzzword for the nation.
It's over, Alex. That's all finished. I told Beth. She knows all about it.
Hope and Glory, a child's wide-eyed, often humorously cockeyed view of England under siege in World War II.
He just got fed up and decided it was time to have some fun.
The Last Emperor, the epic film of the quick rise and long fall of China's last monarch.
What are you all looking at? What are you standing there for? You always wanted to leave the Forbidden City. Now you've got an hour to pack, so go. Go!
And finally, Moonstruck, the comic tale of love and treachery in New York's Little Italy.
I can't marry you.
What?
If I marry you, my mother will die.
What the hell are you talking about? We're engaged.
Loretta, what are you talking
I'm
about?
talking about a promise, okay? He proposed.
Because my mother was dying, and now she's not. Oh, Johnny, you're 42 years old. She's still running your life.
This is the big one.
Okay.
And I don't remember how you rank the top 10 films of the year, so I actually don't know.
Luckily, I do remember.
The Last Emperor.
That's right, The Last Emperor, and in a way I was locked into this choice, Gene, because of the 5 nominees. Of those 5 pictures, it placed highest on my list of the year's 10 best films. So somehow, if it's that good, it's got to be the best picture of the year. It was 4th, right ahead of Moonstruck, which is also my second choice for best film, for that matter. I thought The Last Emperor was one of the most unusual epics I'd ever seen, because in most epics, the story is about some kind of heroic figure who changes the course of history, somebody like Gandhi or Lawrence of Arabia. But here was an epic about a man who started out with almost no real power, and he ended up with none. An epic about a character who was the victim of history rather than the author of history. I admired that notion, and of course I was also impressed by the magnificence of this movie, the photography, the images of China's Forbidden City, the way director Bernardo Bertolucci was able to recreate so many different locations, from an imperial court to a political prison. This is John Lone now playing the Emperor as a young man. He has finally been allowed out of the Forbidden City, but of course he has no real power. He and his court live in exile in a kind of strange copy of European sophistication.
Am I blue? You'll be too. If it's planned with your gout and fell through, was a time I was her only one, but now I'm the sad and lonely one. Now she's gone and we're through. Lord, I'm blue.
Very good. And of course the irony there is that here is the man who was the Emperor of China, in name at least, but he has no interest in Chinese culture. There's none in that scene. His tutor, who was played in the movie by Peter O'Toole, is a Scotsman. His imagination has always been in Cambridge and Oxford and London and Paris and Rome and America. He's singing a Western song there, and that distance between what he is in name and what he is in person is one of the ironies of the movie.
Well, it's also one of the delights of the film, because the last thing I expected in a story about the Emperor of China was to hear, am I blue? I mean, that's great. Okay, check out my envelope.
Okay, let's see here. I think I know what this says.
Yes, this is pretty obvious.
It is The Last Emperor, and I am not surprised.
Yes, and no one could be surprised if they ever watched our show or read my newspaper, and that's because of my choice. I picked it as the year's best film, and I see no reason to change my mind now. In an era of shrinking images in the movies, when so many movies resemble so much television, The Last Emperor had the grandest vision of any film last year. Here in a beautifully directed scene with fantastic images, he's greeted by his predecessor, the Empress Dowager, just before she dies, and he is given the throne.
They're all waiting for me to die. That is why they're putting my bed in the middle of the room, under the black pearl. Little boy, I have decided that you will be the new lord of 10,000 years. You will be the son of heaven.
I was fascinated by that stiff hair on the Emperor Dowager as much as that little boy was. The way that Bertolucci, the director, moves that camera in and back, I am just being controlled by him and seeing wondrous sights. I couldn't take my eyes off this picture. I found myself constantly looking about the whole frame of the film, finding objects and sights that dazzled me, while at the same time being drawn into a very human story about a person gaining more wisdom the more his life became simplified. Oh, how I wish more directors had the courage to tackle projects as fascinating as this one. The Last Emperor, directed by Bernardo Bertolucci.
Now, I'm happy that we both picked this as what we think is the best film nominated this year, because there's a strange situation going on here. This was a Columbia production. It was produced when a man named David Putnam ran that studio.
Yes.
He has since been deposed and sent back to England, and the studio is not behind this film.
Right.
It got more Oscar nominations than any other movie this year, but after the nominations were announced, they did not move it out into a wide release, which is traditional. I imagine that if it wins the Best Picture Oscar, there'll be no way for them to avoid admitting that they've got a hit on their hands.
Well, what I hope is that they get it into small towns, because you and I have both heard stories that this film is not playing in small towns across America because they don't believe, Columbia Pictures doesn't believe, that small town people will get it. And boy, are they wrong.
I believe that anybody who likes good movies would get this film. Coming up next, Gene and I have each looked over the nominations list, and we're going to give you our picks for the worst, most undeserved, lousiest nominations that we have found there.
And now we come to what has become one of our favorite parts of the show. We've created a category all of our own in response to some of the most incomprehensible nominations the Academy seems to come up with year after year. So now a little drum roll, please. Our picks are the worst nominations this year. And Roger, I believe you have my envelope.
I do. You think that the worst Oscar nomination
in the major categories, I didn't play around with small stuff.
The major categories, no small stuff, this year is Anne Southern in The Whales of August.
You got it. You got it. Here's a case of the Academy simply honoring a very likable personality and an actress for a nothing role. This is one of those thank you for your career nominations tinged with empathy for surviving these many years. Anne Southern plays the friend and neighbor of Lillian Gish and Betty Davis, the quarreling sisters in The Whales of August. But she's given nothing to do or say in this part and does not affect the principal characters in any way.
Your cottage is on my way home. May I have the pleasure of escorting you?
Yes, my last cavalier.
Look, I enjoyed the Ann Southern show on TV when I was a kid. I actually watched it quite regularly with my family, and I have affection for her on that basis. Maybe she deserves some kind of award for that, but not for this film, not for this role, not for this performance, which is just a walk-on and walk-off.
I agree with you, Gene. If you think of some of the nominations and supporting roles this year that could have been nominated, this is not one of the 5 best. For example, what about Ellen Barkin in The Big Easy?
Oh, yeah.
Now, there was a performance.
Yeah,
I agree with what you say about Ann Southern.
And there's even talk that she may win out of a sympathy vote, and if she does, I'm going to kick over my set, because if they don't give it to Dukakis, they give it to Ann Southern. This whole Academy doesn't deserve to be called an Academy.
Okay, well, why don't you look on my envelope there, because it may give you something else to talk about when you're kicking over your set, yes.
Well, this will actually happen after I kick over my set, because you've won to the big category, Best Picture, and you don't like the fact that Fatal Attraction was nominated.
That's right. That's my nomination for the year's worst nomination. There is no way that this movie belongs on a list of the best films of the year, and I say that even though I was scared by Fatal Attraction and entertained by it, and I even admired perhaps the first 75% of the film. In fact, it's because I had respect for so much of this movie that I felt so betrayed by the ending. The Glenn Close character, most people have seen the film by now, in Fatal Attraction, is one of the most interesting, complicated characters in any recent thriller.
So where's your wife?
Where's my wife? My wife is in the country with her parents visiting for the weekend.
And you're here with a strange girl being a naughty boy?
So there you get a taste of why this character was so interesting and why Glenn Close probably did deserve her nomination for Best Actress for playing that character. She is a complicated and real human being in the first part of this movie. She is a woman with problems. She's sick. She's mentally ill. She needs to be treated with respect and concern on that level. And that's why I was so frustrated at the end of the movie when she's treated in the way that she is, when she's turned into a cheap trick, a travesty out of Friday the 13th. Maybe she's dead. Maybe she isn't. She jumped out of the bathtub. She's got the knife. Come on.
I know.
This isn't fair.
Well, I like the picture more than you did. It did not make my top 10 list, so it wouldn't make my top 5 list. I'll name a picture that you picked as best film of the year, which was much better. House of Games. My number 2 pick of the year was Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. These are films with original vision.
And I could keep going. Barfly, Shy People. Okay. I could make a whole list of movies that belonged on way ahead.
This doesn't anger me as much as Ann Southern, but you have a point to be made, and I'm glad you made it. We'll be back with more of our special in just a minute.
Okay, now that we've marked our ballots and selected our personal Oscar winners and a couple of losers, too, I have one question that I'd like to ask you, a final question. On the night that the Oscars are given out, April the 11th, who, if they won, would move you most emotionally, most deeply? Which one would you care about?
I don't think this person is going to win, but and I'm not sure that they deserve to win, because James Brooks wrote a great script for broadcast news, but there's someone else who wrote a great script, and if they won, it would surprise, delight me, and I would take my foot out of the set that I just put it through for Ann Southern. I'd pull it out and try and get an electrician, because I would want to see the name of John Patrick Shanley announced as Best Original Screenplay Writer for Moonstruck, a film that is so beautifully written that a lot of character actors, as well as the fine ones that were selected, could have played it that well. It's that great a film. I'm rooting for John Patrick Shanley. How about you?
I've got a tie. I've got a couple of people in 2 different categories that would really move me. First of all, and I don't expect this, but if Sally Kirkland were to win for Anna, that would really be emotional for me. Here is somebody who has paid her dues for 20 years, who finally got a good break in this movie, and who did a great job. And that would be emotionally very moving. Also, if Morgan Freeman won for Street Smart, because here's somebody in what looked like an exploitation picture in a role that presumably had very little to offer, and out of that he made an Academy Award performance. So those two would both perhaps bring just the beginning of a little tear to my eye.
Well, you know what this is all about? As much as we knocked that show, and we knocked the choices and all that, we still like part of it.
A certain amount of suspense when they give out those Oscars.
So we'll be watching along with you on April 11th, and until then, the envelopes are sealed and the balcony is closed.
Get that good, clean Efferdent feeling when you remove stains and freshen dentures with Efferdent every night. After work or after workout, Daisy Turbo Spa combines powerful water massage and tingling aeration to turn your tub into a personal whirlpool. Wrinkle-free brand fabric relaxant removes wrinkles from clothing without ironing. Wrinkle-free, the little iron in a can. Tappan Sure Cook Space Saver Microwave is perfect for kitchens where space is at a premium. Tappan Touch solid-state controls, automatic temperature probe, and wood grain decor. Furnished by Tappan.